reporting from New York. We have a verdict in the Jerry Sandusky sex abuse trial. He has been found guilty of the majority of the charges against him. We want to get right to the courthouse in Bellefonte, Pennsylvania, where our correspondent John Yang has just received the news. John, what can you tell us?
Savannah, he has been found guilty on 45 of the 48 counts of which he was charged. 45 of the 48, 3 charges he was found not guilty. He was found not guilty on assault on victim 2. That was the young man who was seen in the shower with by assistant football coach Mike McQueary. In his testimony, McQueary was uncertain exactly what he could see, and the defense pounded away at that in their closing arguments. They said he assumed something by what he heard, but he didn't see it, and he assumed too much. He was also found not guilty of indecent assault on victim 5. Victim 5 was a young man who said that Sandusky had exposed himself to him in the sauna and then touched him inappropriately in the shower, and that he walked away from Sandusky, and Sandusky never was in contact with him again. They found him not guilty on that count. The third charge in which he was found not guilty, is indecent assault on victim 6. Victim 6, as I recall, was the young man who actually started the investigation in 1998. He testified, in his testimony, he said that he actually blacked out. He couldn't remember after a certain point in the shower with Sandusky in the locker room. And again, the defense pointed that out, and that appears to have been the reason enough to plant sufficient doubt. You're hearing the cheers from this crowd that have townspeople that have gathered out here, as now the prosecutors are coming out to talk. But 45 of the 48 counts Jerry Sandusky has now been convicted on. Savannah?
Just looking at the laundry list of charges here, there was a theoretical prison sentence of up to 500 years if convicted on all, but he certainly has been convicted of the most serious counts against him, including involuntary deviant sexual intercourse, forcible sexual intercourse, which has a maximum penalty of up to 20 years. Fair to say Jerry Sandusky is going to see some jail time.
That's exactly right, Savannah. And all those charges that you talked about, the top charges in these indictments, involuntary deviant sexual intercourse, which are class 1 felonies, it is a 10-year mandatory minimum. So as you say, it's a possible maximum of 20 years. But on those charges, it's a mandatory minimum of Pennsylvania of 10 years in prison. Savannah?
Forgive me if I'm putting you on the spot, but do you know what happens to Jerry Sandusky tonight? Will he be immediately taken into custody?
I don't. Actually, let me ask Michael Isikoff, my colleague, national investigative correspondent. Mike, what happened to Sandusky after the verdict? Was he taken into custody?
Judge ordered him remanded into custody. He was taken away by the sheriff's office immediately. No bail. Bail was revoked, and Mr. Sandusky, without any emotion, almost a shrug, was escorted out of the courtroom.
And John, if you can ask Michael, I know he doesn't have an ability to hear me, whether there was reaction from family members in the courtroom, if any of the accusers had come to court to hear this.
What was the reaction, Michael? I know that his wife Dorothy was in the courtroom. 3 of the 6 adopted children, Kara, John, and Jeff, were there. Was there any sort of reaction?
Almost no reaction that I saw. It's almost like as though they were resigned to this verdict. Jerry Sandusky obviously came in somber, but as he stood, as each verdict was being read by the jury foreman, he had his hand in his left pocket, seemed to display no particular reaction at all. I think all indications are the body language, as they say, he expected this. Indeed, his lawyer said he expected him to be found guilty, and that's exactly what happened. There was almost a shrug as he was escorted out of the courtroom. He didn't say a word to either his lawyer or to his family, as far as we could tell.
And Michael, were any of the accusers in the courtroom?
None of the accusers that I saw were in the courtroom. The courtroom was obviously packed. It was hushed for all this. Almost all media. I'm sure there were some of the lawyers in, but we haven't seen any reaction from them yet.
So, Savannah, as we understood, the process is now that he's going to be taken to the Center County Jail, where he'll be held until sentencing, which would be within 60 days.
Actually, the judge said 90 days. He first has to get evaluated by the sex offenders, a sex evaluation assessment that will take place in terms of sentencing. But if you actually go through the charges, John and Savannah, a minimum of 60 years in prison for Jerry Sandusky, effectively a life sentence for him, and actually, if you add up all the counts, it is well over 100 years. So Jerry Sandusky, unless something happens on appeal, is going to jail for the rest of his life.
And John, I have just about a minute left to talk to you both. I'll ask you, John, you've been there in that community. How is this likely to be responded to by the community that has felt this case so deeply?
Well, I think you heard some of it, the cheers here tonight, and also you talked to townspeople. There was a sense, and people here in Bellefonte, people at State College, there was a sense that they really wanted this over with. They felt that it had tarnished this community, tarnished a great football, what they consider to be a great football program. Remember, this brought down, in the past 7 months, brought down a legendary football coach, brought down a university president, and tarnished one of the top football programs in America. I think there's a lot of relief that this is over, Savannah.
All right, John Yang and Michael Isikoff at the courthouse for us tonight to remind everyone Jerry Sandusky, the former assistant coach at Penn State, guilty of 45 of the 48 charges against him.